We have fixed the technical problems with Canada's Environment and Sustainable Development Commissioner, Jerry DeMarco. So he's been listening in and he's back. Commissioner, great to have you back. I think we got the audio. You just heard Minister Wilkinson. He took umbrage with some of what you said. I said, well, you said Canada's the worst performer in the G7 nations since the Paris Climate Agreement of 2015. He said, no, that's not true. What's your take?
Well, first, thanks for having me back. It was a bad timing to reach net zero on my microphone emissions, but so be it. Canada is the worst performer since 2015 on emissions. Look, we're looking at the actual results. Have emissions gone down? No, they've gone up in Canada. They've gone down in 5 of the other 6 G7 nations, and the one other one that did have an increase had an increase that was lower than ours. So we are the worst performer since that time, yes.
Okay, so he says we're not, and he said everyone says their plan is the best, and he said if we need a plan to implement, they've got the plan since 2015, and it will be implemented. What's your response to when they say, look, we've got a plan, and it's working, and we've had to make up lost ground, but we've really got it this time?
Well, we've had 30 years of lost ground. I agree with that. We have a plan. We'll have an updated plan in December or March from the federal government. That's all good. The point of my report today is to say we have to learn from the past. A history of failure and then failure and then failure needs to be replaced with success, and that means results that are decreases in emissions.
Does the new plan that Minister Wilkinson and Minister Guilbeault have outlined, has the new plan 40% reductions by 2030? Does this plan give you any confidence that it actually is realistic, or we won't keep, quote, as you described, missing our targets?
Well, the point is to learn from history and not to repeat past failures. So there are some positives. I'm not saying that the plan's going to fail. I haven't audited the new plan. I'm just providing a 30-year retrospective on what's come to date with the hope that the 8 lessons learned in our report will be applied moving forward and that the plan works. To be frank, this plan isn't the plan. There's going to be a new plan in December or March under the Net Zero Act. We'll evaluate that plan after it comes out. For the time being, we want to just emphasize that we need to shift towards results. The temperature of the planet is correlated with emissions and concentrations of gases in the atmosphere, not good intentions.
Okay, well, that's the question. How do we decide what's good intentions and what's not? Your office audited the government's emissions reduction fund that they set up in 2020 as part of a COVID support program. How would you describe how that worked?
Well, if this is a program intended to reduce emissions, then the department should have been able to show to us its results in reducing net emissions. And I don't just mean the narrow emissions that they chose to look at in this program. If they were reducing emissions at one part of a facility, but having the rest of the facility increase production, that's a net increase, not a net decrease. As I said, the atmosphere responds to actual emissions, not just narrow accountings of partial emissions.
Can you just break that down again? I want people to understand that, because I just put that to the former Environment Minister, now the Minister of Natural Resources, Minister Wilkinson. And he said, depends which way you look at it. We actually believe it helped and reduced emissions of methane. You're saying it increased. I just wanted this to be clear. You're saying the program, which was a COVID support program meant to reduce methane emissions, actually ended up increasing emissions.
No, what I'm saying is we don't know the results of it because they only tracked a narrow segment of emissions. If they had tracked net emissions, we could tell you the answer to your question, but they did not. For example, projects applied for funding and gave numbers on the narrow emissions that they would be addressing without factoring in the increase in production or the fact that they would meet many of these emissions reductions through the operation of law anyway with the methane regulations. We wanted to know what this fund itself did to reduce emissions, and the department could not tell us that.
Okay, that's a fascinating report. Environment Commissioner Jerry DeMarco. Listen, I'm glad we solved the audio issues and we got to put some voice to it, so we didn't just have to do it in mime or anything, but great to have you on the program.
Great to be here, and thanks for your patience with that.